Okay, can you still hear me? All right, cool. Because I had to take off my headset, otherwise it will be crackly. Okay, so as I have said, we want to get the squared expression alone, so x squared, everything we toss it to the other side. So now we want to get rid of the 64. So we have to divide both sides by 64. Do the practice homeworks count for grades to everything that I put on Schoology and everything we're doing now? Like I'm discussing how you're gonna do it, and we're answering it together. That also counts. I copied them on Schoology. Yes, so nothing in this class does not count, you know? Okay. Alright, so now we're going to cancel this one and bring down x squared. There you go. And then 25 over 64. So now we need to, okay, we need to get the x by itself. So we have to remove this one. Okay, so how do you remove the squared? You have to get the square root of both sides. Some call this the slingshot. There you go. So for this to go away, you have to use the square root. They cancel each other. So then you're going to have x alone. Now, but this, like we wrote down the perfect square number last time. Let's say 25 is 5 times 5. So the square root of 25 is 5. Yep. Now what's the square root of 64? What's the square root of 64? 8. There you go, because 8 times 8 is 64. But when you multiply two positives, you get 25. When you multiply two negative 5s, they still become 25. So you're going to put the sign plus or minus. So how will you answer this? You see the plus or minus right here? You click on that, and then you put 5/8. And then submit answer. Like yes. There you go. That's how you do it. So we just keep adding or subtracting and dividing the numbers that are in the way of getting the x squared by itself. And then to get rid of the square, you get the square root of both sides. Are there any questions about the first example before I move on? Any questions? Okay, I'm going to clear the ink. And let's move on to the second one so we can start also on the Schoology later on. Okay, so we have x squared minus 36. Okay, you gotta help me with this, guys. This one is a little easier. You toss the 36 right here. What will happen to the sign? It will become what? You can just like unmute yourself for a little bit so you don't have to switch from one screen to the other. So you can just stay on Delta Math. Yeah, there you go. So positive 36, right? Okay, then let's bring down x squared. This one will become just 36. Okay, and remember how you get rid of the square? How do you get rid of the square? You do that. What do you call that thingy? The one that looks like a slingshot? Square root. Square root. You should type it down or write it down in your notebook so you don't forget. So that's the only way to get rid of the power 2. So we get x is equal to, now what's the square root of 36? What's the square root of 36? 6. Perfect. Okay, and then don't forget to put the plus or minus because positive 6 and positive 6 is 36. And negative 6 times negative 6 is also 36. Now submit answer. And then click yes. Okay, so I've shown you something that has a fraction. And then I also showed you something here that only has a whole number answer, right? Okay, so let's do the next one. This time I'm going to show you something in which it's not a perfect square and it's not a whole number either. Yep, so we're going to begin by tossing the 5 over to the other side, right? So if we get x squared minus 5 equal to 0, move it. It becomes positive 5, right? And then we bring this down. That's 5. But this time, there's no number that you multiply by itself gives you 5. Excuse me. Now that's a common misconception. Students think, Miss, it's 2.5. No, it's not 2.5 plus 2.5. It should be like 2.5 times 2.5, which is 6.25. You get what I mean? So it's not 5. So what will you do then? Well, you still use our slingshot. There you go. All right. So bring down the x squared because they cancel, right? Now, since 5 is not a perfect square, let me take this out because I already canceled it. Then you're just going to keep it under the radical sign and put the plus or minus before it. That's all you need to do. Yep, that's all you need to do. Okay, so let's type that in. Plus or minus, and then you see the radical sign over here. Radical 5. Okay, and then submit answer. Yes. All right. And what they're doing here is they're just separating the positive 5 and the negative 5, but they mean the same thing. Okay, so I've shown you all the 3 possibilities. Now move on. Don't wait for me. Yep, I'm pretty sure you can move on. Some of you can move on at your own pace. Okay, so don't let me slow you down. All right, this one has a fraction again. Can somebody tell me what answer I'm going to put? Excuse me. And try doing it in your head too, you know? Because you're just moving this to the other side anyway. So it becomes positive 9 when you move it. What's the square root of positive 9? What's the square root of positive 9 when you move it? Yeah, try doing it without writing it. You should be able to do it here. No, you're trying to find the square root of 9. What number when you multiply by itself gives you 9? 3. There you go. So you put plus or minus and then 3, right? Okay, now you have to divide by 64 later, right? You have to divide by 64. So what is the square root of 64? What is the square root of 64? 8. Very good. But you know, since you're going to divide this one later on, right? So you have to put it under. So divided by 8. There you go. So see how you can do it in your head? You know you're going to move it there. So square root of 9 is 3, right? And then since it's multiplied, you know to get the x squared by itself, you have to divide it. So you put the square root of 64 underneath it, right? Okay, so submit answer and then click yes. All right, and that's the answer to plus or minus 3 over 8. Valerie, it's plus or minus radical 5. Uh-huh. All right. Plus or minus radical 5. Okay, so let's click on the next section. Ooh, try this. Try doing it in your head. Don't write it out. So you're tossing the 49 over. So that's the first thing that you think about. You're moving the 49. So what's the square root of 49? Like something times something equals 49. 7. Very good, Justin. That was quick. And don't forget to put your plus or minus. Okay, now you will divide by 36, right? So what's the square root of 36? What are we going to place here? What's the square root of 36? 6. Perfect. I'm going to use the keyboard because like the computer is more than an arm stretch. So I'll just use my mouse from afar. So submit answer. Click yes. There you go. So how do you find this topic? Do you find this easy? In a scale of 1 through 5, like where are you? 5 being, I got this, Miss A. Uh-huh. 5 over 5. 4.5 over 5. 4 over 5. Okay, that's great. I'll take that. I'll take that. Okay, Sean and Justin, what's confusing you? What would take that 4.5 and 4 to a 5? Let me know. Mm-hmm. So I can answer it. Okay, here we go. So imagine you're doing it by hand. You're moving the 49 to the other side. And there's no number here, so pretty much it's just a whole number answer. 7. Very good, George. So 7. It's gonna be there. All right. The last one was plus or minus 7 over 6, I guess. Yeah, So get the square root of the constant and then divide it by the number that was in front of the variable. Yep. So you get the square root of this and then find the square root of the number in the first portion. All right. Next section. Here we go. Look at that. So get the square root of 81 because you're going to move it here and then you will divide it by the square root of 49. So what's the final answer for this? Help us out. 9. Very good, Justin. So the square root of 81 is 9. Okay, and then what's the square root of 49? 7. Perfect. So divided by 7. Perfect. Okay, so let's submit our answer. There you go. It was, hey Valerie, I'm just following your class's space, Valerie. Like, okay, so what number were you in? Good job, George. You finished it. What number are you in, Valerie? What do you need? Okay. All right, next one. The third one is the one that I missed. This is the third one. You got that? Okay. And yeah, I know you may be busy, honey, but you gotta focus as well because so we can respect the time of your classmates too. I'm just going by their pace. So, all right. Next one. Solve 36x squared minus 25. I understand. Yeah, I even got logged out today. Okay, so 25. What's the square root of 25? 5. Very good. So plus or minus 5. Okay. Nice one, Justin. And then you divide it by the square root of 36, which is 6. Okay, perfect. Okay, Valerie, did you get this one before I submit the answer? Write it down. Okay. Nice. Okay. All right. And sometimes what people do, like they write down the answer in a piece of paper so they don't slow their system down, and then they do it after. So whichever works for you, honey. I don't want to like stress you out. Do whatever works for you. Okay, next one. X squared minus 9. So the square root of 9. 3. Very good, George and Justin. But don't forget plus or minus 3. Yep. Like this, Valerie. Write it down. And then when you're not zooming, because you have a long launch, you can enter the answers later on. Yep. So at least you can focus and you're not stressing yourself out. Yep. I know how that feels, honey, because sometimes I'm zooming and I'm taking care of my kids' needs. So it's really hard. All right. So do what's convenient for you. Here we go. Last one. Square root of this number, 16. Plus or minus 4. That's great. All right. Okay, so if you were able to do them in Delta Math directly, good job. Okay, go ahead and, yep, submit that, finish that, because I'm going to copy that directly into Schoology later on. Yep. One good thing I like about our schedule, I have time to grade right after class. Unlike before, like after your class, I have 15-minute break and then there's homeroom and then 30-minute lunch and then homeroom. But after your class, I have an hour and 40 lunch. So that means I'll be able to copy your grades instantly in Schoology. There you go. So I know some of you were not able to do it on Delta Math, but I hope you were writing down the answers on your paper. Yep, and then later on, you can just go back and put them in. So while I'm here, okay, yeah, do you have any questions? Leah, did you finish it? While I'm here, if you have any questions or you want me to reset something for you, you got these four wrong, honey. So what I can do is I can reset this for you so you can do them again later on. You get what I'm trying to say? There you go. Okay, so now we're going to move on because we're going to move on and we'll go back to here later on and reset them for you if you need something. Okay, so let's go to Schoology. We're going to, you guys were so good at that. So now, oh, hang on. Not this. Okay, yeah, this one. Okay, so the first thing in Schoology is like a quick review of graphing method. And then later on, we're going to go back to square roots again. So let's preview this one. So our overall goal this chapter is to solve quadratic equations, right? And we started by doing square roots. So last chapter, we also had factoring and graphing, and that's what this is about. You will just do this for a quick review. You can actually do this in 10 minutes. Okay, so let me teach you how you're going to do it. Let me show you how. So for number one, it says write the equation in standard form. In other words, you're matching these equation with its other version in the answers, which I think can be found in the first four also, right? Standard form means the right-hand side must be 0. So if I use number one as an example, right, all you need to do is move this guy over. 5x squared, so the 14 will become negative 14 equal to 0. So you know you're done when the right-hand side is 0. Does that make sense? You're not solving here. It just says write the equation in standard form. So you're just finding the equation that looks exactly, not exactly, but almost the same as the problem. Yep. Sometimes, like in number 2, okay, what I did for number 3. Sometimes, like in number 2, you don't move to the left, but instead you move to the right. Why? So that this will become positive. Because if you look at the answer here, they made it positive. So you move this guy over. Since he emptied the left-hand side, you're going to make that 0 equals 3x squared plus 16. So remember, the only rule you have to know is you move the sign or change the sign if you're moving it. Okay, so can you answer number 1 through 4 quickly for me? Answer numbers 1 through 4 quickly. What's number 1? Did you find the answer? You're going to type the answer over here at the bottom. Right here. So type number 1 here. What's number 1? Did you find the answer to number 1? Give me the letter. The capital letter. A. Alright. What's number 2? Where can you find this? Maybe it was just reversed, but it's the same thing. Maybe the 0 was here and the 3x squared plus 16 is on the left. But that should be the same thing. Yep. They're both correct. S. Very good. Okay, now let's find number 3. This is number 3. You have to switch them around because 8x squared must be first, right? But since it's negative, I think in the answer, they move it to the right. So what letter can you find something similar with an 8x squared? N. All right. So N. Yeah, you see that letter N over there? It's 8x squared when you move it to the right, and then the positive 7x will become negative 7x. Okay, one last. This one. One last. T, which is this one, right? 12x squared minus 10x minus 9. Okay, so first four has been done for you. Alright, your classmates have answered the first four. Alright, questions about that? That was easy, huh? Okay, now let's move on to the next set. Numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8. So solve the equation by graphing. You either do it by hand on your notebook or use technology to help verify your answer. Now, since we had a huge chapter on graphing and we're just reviewing right now, okay, we just want to find the points where the graph crosses the x-axis. Okay, so what can you do is, let me make this one smaller so I can open another window. I'm gonna open, where's my decimals graphing? Alright, you can also do it on your phone. If you have a smartphone, it's even better if you run decimals on your smartphone. It's easier to type. That's what I realized. Somebody showed me that. Okay, so we're gonna graph these, but when you graph them, you're gonna put y equals. Oh, you got the answers already. Okay, x squared minus 6x. Yeah, you can also do it trial and error. How? Well, just substitute the number. If you substitute 0, 0 squared minus 6 times 0 is 0. So you're just looking for those numbers that make it 0. Yep, so the first one is 0, 0. And the second one is 6, 0. Okay, so where can we find that? In the choices. 0 and 6. T, very good, because it wants only the x value. So when x is 0, y is 0. When x is 6, y is 0. That's what we mean. So letter T from George, or put that in. Can you just put that in, because it's hard for me to do like this. Okay, so there you go. I'll write it down on a piece of paper. Alright. Next, number 6. Can you try number 6 and tell me where it crosses your graph? Yep, you can unclick this so it will not show the first one. Y equals, when you're graphing, make sure you put y equals x squared minus 3x. And then what? Plus 7. Okay, and then find the portion where it crosses the x-axis if it does. Yep. Does it cross the x-axis? Yes or no? Does it cross the x-axis? Yes or no? No! Good. So then what are you going to put? No solution. Perfect. So it's letter S. Letter S for number 6. Letter S for number 6. Okay. Next, number 7. And do the same thing again. Okay, go ahead, do it and give me the answer. What's number 7? No solution? I don't think so. What was the number for 5? It was, for 5, it was 0 and 6. Uh-huh. -4. That's for number 7. Okay, so -4, it only crossed the x-axis once, right? So that's letter I. So number 7 is I. Next, number 8. Give me number 8. Give me number 8. Dun, dun, dun. Got 8. 8, 8, 8. No solution? Let's try again. It only becomes a no solution if it doesn't hit your x-axis. You see this? It's like above the x-axis. 4 and 6 according to George. So that's letter E. Yep, letter E. Very good, Christian and George. So letter E. Okay, now let's go to number 9. 9 is like, yeah, 9 through 12 is like 5 through 8, but they were just graphed for you already. Yep. Uh-huh. Okay, so let me close decimals. We don't need that anymore. Now let's go back to here. For 9 through 12, you're just going to figure out where it crosses the x-axis. When you go to Algebra 2, you will be graphing these by hand. You know, in Algebra 1, we stop with parabolas. Okay, so these are just your answers. Go ahead and find them for me in the choices. So find these numbers wherever they are. Okay, so what's number 9? 1, 3, 4. Very good. So that's letter O. What's number 10? What's number 10? P. 1, 2, and 3. Very good. What's 11? What's 11? They're decimals. But they're both to the right of 0. So they're both positive. H. Very good, Juliet. And number 12? 1 is to the left of 0. So one of them has to be negative. Number 12 is negative 1 and 3? I don't think so. They didn't fall on the exact dot. Yes, very good. It's letter S. It's the last letter S. Negative 1.2 and 3.2. Good job. Yeah, so that was a good review of graphing, right? It's okay, honey. Okay, go ahead. Type them in before I... Good job, guys. So I hope the others, if you're not doing it on Schoology right away, you were writing them down on a piece of paper. Now that has been a huge problem, you know? You don't do your homework, but your classmates have been doing them for you. All you need to do is copy down their answers. Write the notes down. But some of you are still not doing it. So, I mean, I gave some of you Fs in the 15th week progress report. Yep. Uh-huh. Already. I know life is hard, but you still have to give the bare minimum, you know? Yep. Okay. We're moving on. Alright. Did everybody get a chance to write down the last 4 letters? Okay, let's go. So that was 9.2. Okay, one last. Oh, wait. Okay, go for it. I'm going to open this one. What were the other ones? Ooh, I already erased the ink, honey. And it didn't save it because I was only on the preview mode. So what you can do later is fast forward this video to whatever numbers you need. Yep. Okay. So last one that we will do. Yeah, or ask somebody here in the chat if they could send you the answers. Yeah. If they can open it on their end. Yep. They would see their answers. Yeah. But mine weren't saved because I was always on a preview. Okay. So if you want to see more examples, I have like a screencast video here for you. Okay. But instead of giving you more examples, I'm going to go straight to the actual problems and teach you from there. So at least we're teaching you and at the same time we're getting the answers to your homework. Okay. All right. So I'll teach you how to do it and hopefully you can take it from there. All right. So this is similar to what we did in Delta Math, except that the quantity being squared is not just x squared. So it had like 2 and 10 after it. But then again, remember our goal is we need to separate the guy that has a square around it. So Since this is already separated, there's no number here in front, we can already start solving. And how do we solve that? Remember your slingshot? You get the square root of the group that was squared. And whatever you do to the left, you must do to the right. There you go. They might answer you later, Cicely, because I'm pretty sure they're like looking at the one we're doing right now too. Okay, so unless somebody can open that on another screen. Alright, so we have to remove the radical and the power 2, yeah? And then we're going to bring this down, just like when we bring down x squared in the delta math, right? So we bring down the 2x plus 10. So 2x plus 10. Okay, then you guys were very good with this. So what's the square root of 16? What's the square root of 16? 4. Very good. So that was the thing that you were doing in delta math, plus or minus 4, right? So the only difference now is it's not just x squared here. Yeah? So it's an expression 2x plus 10. Cicely, Juliet answered you. Okay, so now what we will do is we have to get the x by itself. So move the 10 over and then divide by 2. Yeah? So we will get plus or minus 4. The positive 10 will become negative 10 because you have to do the opposite. Over, you have to divide this by 2. Alright, so that will be the value of x. Okay, so now we have to get the answer separately. First, use the positive. Now follow along. What is positive 4 minus 10? What is positive 4 minus 10? What's positive 4 minus 10? Negative 6. And then divide that by 2. 3 or negative 3? Negative 3. And you know there's only one answer with that negative 3 right there. Yeah? So this is the correct answer. Well, where did the negative 7 come from? The negative 7 will come from when you use the negative. So negative 4 minus 10 is negative 14. If you divide negative 14 by 2, that's where the negative 7 will come from. Alright, and I don't know if they were shuffled around in your Schoology, so please make sure that you're not just copying the letter. You have to copy the answers, which are negative 3 and negative 7. Okay, so let's summarize that one. Again, it's like what we're doing in delta. We get the square root of the number, but this time, this is not just x squared. So when we get the square root, you have to bring down the whole thingy-majingy, the whole expression. Okay? Alright, let's do one more. I know it was a little confusing with just one example. Ooh, let's try this. Earlier, it was just like x squared, and then you got the square root, and then you divided, right? Okay, so let's try this. Alright, so remember, you have to separate this guy. So the jailed part, it has to be the only thing on the left-hand side. The one in the parentheses, okay? You have to divide this on both sides. So let's divide by 25. Let's divide by 25. And then we have x plus 6 squared, okay, is equal to 4 over 25. Okay, now do your slingshot. How do we know that we can do our slingshot already? Well, we can already get the square root because it's just something square, right? Okay, so let's do the square root. And remember, the square root and the square cancel, so you're left with x plus 6. Okay, help me out. What will I write here? Square root of 4 and square root of 25. 2/5. Very good, 2/5. Okay, but now we have a 6 over here. Yep. So what are we going to do with the 6? We have to move it over to the other side. So we have to subtract it. plus or minus 2/5 minus 6. Okay. Yeah, but we don't see that here. So what could have happened? What are we going to do with the 6? This has a denominator 5. So what are we going to do with the 6? 6 is over 1. So what are you going to do? What are you going to multiply 6 and 1 by? By 5. Not 2/5, but by 5. Very good. So you multiply this by 5, and then you also multiply this by 5. And why are we doing that? So that they would have the same denominator. Yep. Okay, so now let's do it in our head. This is 30. So what's negative 30 plus 2? What's negative 30 plus 2? What's negative 30 plus 2? Negative 28. So either negative 28 over 5 or this one. Okay, now let's find the other one so we can figure out the correct answer. Very good, Brandon and Juliet. So this is negative 30 again, minus, this time use the minus, 2. So it's negative 30 minus 2. It's A, negative 32 over 5. Yeah, but I don't know if it's the same A in yours, okay? So just match that one. Uh-huh. Because I'm not sure if they were shuffled. Okay, so if you already know what to do, keep going. Don't let us slow you down. Yep. Okay, I'm gonna clear the ink. Yep, don't wait for Arciaga. Just move on, move on. Okay, so earlier I showed you something when it wasn't a perfect square, right? I'm gonna do something here. So we're pretty much doing the same flow, right? We came up with a whole number answer and then a fraction. So now let's do something with a decimal. It was like the square root of 5 in decimals earlier. So move this guy over. The negative 33 will become positive 33. Okay? And then you add them up, so that's 43. Okay, this is just x squared. So that's just your delta math earlier. If we were in delta math, you would write x. Sure, honey, just make sure you catch up on this one later on, okay? Alright, square root of 43. Alright, so, but this is not in your choices. So, who has a calculator? Get square root of 43 and tell us what it is. Yeah. There are two possible answers because it's positive, negative. Okay, so who has a calculator? I know you're trying it out. Give me the answer when you have it. Square root of 43. Anybody? What's the answer? How do you do it? Calculator. Yep. You do square root. Where's the square root here? There. Square root of 43. Oh, wrong. It has to be 43 and then square root first. There. 6.56. Very good, George and Juliet. Alright, so then that means we're gonna pick this one, right? Okay. Letter A if it's the same in your Schoology. Okay, so we've seen a whole number, a decimal, we've seen a fraction. So I think at this point, you should be able to try them out already. Let's go. Let's keep going. Can you tell me what the answer here is? So, leave the 7x squared alone and move the 23 over. So, negative 9 plus 23, what would that be? 14? Right? Okay, solve it from there. You divide by 7, both sides. Yeah. So 2 is 14 divided by 7 is 2. And do this in your calculator. I don't know what that is. You have to get the square root of 2. Whatever square root of 2 is. So plus or minus. Jesus got 141, so the positive and negative. Very good. All right. I can see you guys are getting this topic really well. It's easy, huh? Yeah. So actually, if you get this topic, but you didn't get graphing last chapter, now you can do the graphing because this one, 141 and negative 141, these are just, the solutions of the graph. The vertex is somewhere here. We don't know how low, but what is this? I think it's 14, negative 14. So the vertex is like that. So basically, that's what we're doing this chapter. We're figuring out where the graph crosses the x-axis. That's all we're doing. And understanding this also helps you understand how to graph it. Yep. So that's great. Ooh, match, match, match. I love this. This is my favorite. Okay, so negative 2x minus 5 squared. Okay, so this guy is a squared. I know. I had a student before who tried to memorize it by saying square guy. So if you see the square guy, take the slingshot already. Yep, I know. Like some kids try to memorize it that way. So they make it funny. They come up with a story so they can easily memorize it. I find that cool. Okay. Yep. All right. So moving on. Cross these out. Cross this out. So negative 2x minus 5. Oh, what's the square root of 121? It's so ironic how. What's the square root of 121? Do your calculator. Plus or minus what? I taught regular students for 10 years before I taught honors for 5, or this is only my 4th year teaching in the magnet honors class. Yep. And sometimes what I learn in the regular classes, like how they memorize it, I teach my honors kids. And they're like, oh yeah, it makes more sense. I know, right? Okay, so don't underestimate yourself, you guys. You should also apply to some honors classes. Okay, so plus or minus 11. So now move that guy over. So negative 2x. Because it's fun, like when kids get it and they come up with something to help themselves, to memorize it faster. And if it comes from me, sometimes, the students don't get it. But if they listen to their classmates explain it, they get it faster. So that's the one we miss with classroom teaching. Okay, so positive 11 plus 5, that's how much? 16 over negative 2. That's the first answer, which is what? 8? Negative 8, right? The other answer is negative 11. So it's C? Okay, so number 1 is C. There you go. Because negative 11 plus 5 is negative 6 divided by 2, which is positive 3. You got it. You got it, George. Okay, next, number 2. Number 2. So we move this guy over here. So that's negative 22. So how much is that? Negative 55 is equal to negative 5x squared. Oh, why 52? 65. My bad, my bad. I added wrong. Jesus Christ. Okay, so this is negative 65. Okay, and this one divides exactly, right? You cross this out, and then this becomes negative positive 13. Oops, DM. What are the requirements to get into AP Math for next year, and do you recommend it? Of course! If you're getting an A or B in my class this year, I recommend that you try. You know why? Because just like what I told you, I do not differentiate the topics that I cover with my honors and regular. So I teach you the same topics. I just, of course, give you more examples. Do you understand me? Because some of us don't get that real quick, right? Uh-huh. Oh, now I'm talking. So plus or minus radical 13. There you go. So, yeah. And sometimes I try to slow down for you, yeah? So if you're getting the topics I'm teaching you, that means, you know, You're capable. You have to maintain at least a, I don't know the requirement. Yeah, 2.0 or 3.0. I don't know. Yeah, but there are possibilities. Number three. Let's do number three. You can either apply to the STEAM magnet or to the SAS. So those are the two programs that have honors or AP pre-AP math. Yep. So after honors algebra, they'll get honors geometry. Yep. So okay. So let's move 72 over here. So positive 72. If you ask your friends, your ninth grade friends, ask them what chapter they're in. Yep. Because I know like when I go to what do you call this? Meetings, we talk about our pacing plan. Okay. Yeah, so you guys are on time. So 72 divided by 2 is 36. Okay. Alright? And then you get the square root. So what's the square root of 36? What's the square root of 36? So what's the answer to that? By the way, this was letter D, right? And then now we're looking for square root of 36. So, okay, so 6, which is A. Alright, and we'll definitely, this one doesn't have a solution because 15 minus 5, that's going to be a 10. But there's a negative 1 over here. So if you move the negative 1 over, that's negative 10. You cannot get the square root of a negative number. That's undefined or error. So this one will be no solution. Okay, and do the last one. That's the only thing I'm leaving for you. Yep. It's gonna be like this. You have to like drag and drop the correct answers to them. Yep. Okay, so do the last one. Yep, you just have to match these questions with their answers at the bottom. Okay. Alright. So tell me if you find any answer. You too! Tell me if you find an answer. Okay, or maybe you will just do that later on. Is A no real solutions? Negative 9 plus 9 is 0. So this will be 0. So negative 5x squared. 0 divided by negative 5 is still 0. So that has to have a solution. But only one. Yep. Yep. So it's the one that has 0. Okay. The one that would have no solution, I think, is this one. Because if you move positive 11, that will become a negative 3. Because negative 14 plus 11, right, is negative 3. And you can't get the square root of a negative number. That's negative 1. So this will also be taken by one of the problems. Alright. Okay, so finish that up. Yep. And turn it in. Okay, I'm going to stop this video right now.